Hello. Welcome to our Yoga for the Creative Soul book club. It's so fun. On this day, our last day in chapter 4, Toward and Away, where we have been talking about these psychological hindrances, the kleshas, the obstacles to peace of mind. Before we get into today's practice, I wish to acknowledge that we are privileged to be here gathering today from wherever folks are gathering on traditional lands, and to acknowledge the past caregivers of these lands, airs, and waterways, to acknowledge the indigenous people who inhabited these lands, and that we are here as guests, guests on this land, whether through treaty, theft, or occupation, that it is our responsibility to continue to be the caregivers of these lands, airs, and waterways for future generations. So that is part of our creative act. When we were moving through part 3 of Yoga for the Creative Soul, we were really digging into our roles as creators, creating life, creating community, and the way we give care to one another and to the lands that offer us food and shelter and clean water is all part of how we create our lives. We're best able to create, whether that's artistic creation or the art of life, we are best able to create when we are connected to who we truly are. This is that creative soul. And yoga teaches us that there are 5 main obstacles to being that creative self. We have worked our way through 4 of the 5 obstacles. We'll start the next one next week, Wednesday at 12:30 Eastern. That one's fear. And we'll do a deeper dive into fear. We all experience fear, and yoga classifies fear in a very specific way in this context. But remember where we've been. The main obstacle to our peace of mind, to accessing the capital S self, the soul, the creative self, the main obstacle is forgetting that we are that true self, forgetting our constant nature. We start to feel and perceive ourselves as separate rather than whole and united. And that's the main obstacle. In that separateness, we get very self-centered. Egoism and even self-loathing has us thinking too much about ourselves. Even if it's a dislike for self, it is still egoism. And that self-centeredness is the second obstacle to being who we truly are. Psychopathy, pomposity, narcissism, those count as well, right? This chapter 4 in Yoga for the Creative Soul, Toward and Away, we're talking about 2 of the hindrances or obstacles at the same time, the obstacle of attachment and the obstacle of aversion. Now, last week, we dipped into the activity that starts on page 66 and spans the rest of the chapter through page 68, and the thoughts continuing on page 69. And that one's a deep activity. So we're circling back to it again today. We're going to emphasize it a little differently. The activity is to meet the unmet need. And that's in the context of unhealthy attachment, which we might think of as addiction, addictive tendencies, behaviors, inappropriate use of substances, anything in that umbrella, right? Bad habits, if we want to be soft about it. That when we're doing things that are out of alignment with who we know we truly are, those choices are in response to an unmet need. So we were explorers last week, and we went in and we were curious about what is my authentic need here, and how can I be supportive of it? We emphasized the early stages of this activity last time. This time we're going to emphasize the later stages a bit more. So for our beginning today, I'm going to get you to take just a few centering breaths. Come home to your body. Come home to your intention for being here right now. And connect to that shared intention, the group intention of understanding our attachments to unwanted habits and behaviors, to understanding our aversion to the pains and loneliness inside of us. And from this place of centering, bring your imagination to the version of yourself that is triggered into playing out an unwanted habit. And be cautious as you're choosing this trigger. Be gentle with yourself. You already have a sense of how high risk you are to fall into a patterned behavior that you might not be able to get out of. So we want to be really, really aware of the trigger that we're choosing. Something that you know you can work with today and be safe. But as you connect to that version of yourself that is tempted towards that habit, choice, or behavior, notice what starts to happen in your body. What is the somatic feedback? What happens to your breath? Where do you feel this in your physical self? And we're just going to stay with that for a moment. Notice what is the embodied experience of being triggered. You'll probably notice thoughts and feelings that go along with that. And this is the cue for your expressive practice. So just take this part of yourself and depict it. If you were here last week, you've done this depiction. Today's, you're a new person. It's a new week. Lots happened between now and then. So you can let this depiction be free and new, but in some way, express that version of yourself that's having that embodied experience of being triggered, of desiring the unwanted habit, playing into the addictive mindset. And we're not going to spend too long on this depiction. If it's tough to express it, remember there is the option to use your non-dominant hand. In the book, I actually say you can even use your teeth to move a crayon around the page. That's super creative. The inside of your elbow, right? I've certainly tried to express some things with the inside of my knees, and at some point in our lives, we've all tried to scribble with our toes as well. I think that's something that every 7-year-old attempts eventually, isn't it? Just to stick the crayon between your toes and see how it goes. The monkey feet of children, very agile. It's okay if while you are expressing this, the somatic experience intensifies. So what we're looking for is not to bottle it up inside of us. What we're looking for is to allow that somatic flow to come all the way through us. So it doesn't get stuck, right? That discomfort doesn't get stuck in the breath. It doesn't get stuck in the body. It doesn't get stuck in the mindset. This is your chance to dump it out of you and onto the page. And we'll let that continue for just a couple more breaths. A few more breaths. And as you're breathing into it, as this is flowing out of you, notice alongside the expression what is happening to the need, what is happening to the pull of the unwanted behavior, and what is crying out from within you in a deeper place. A lot of the time we hit the protest when we deny the addictive habit or substance. a part of us gets rebellious, but it is adjacent to the authentic need. The authentic need is not sugar or shopping or relationships or, you know, not those addictive kind of charged up relationships, authentic relationships. That's an authentic need. Everything's coming from connection, right? That's the unity. Yoga talks about that a lot. But feel what else is going on beneath the surface. Is that despair? Is that isolation? Is that self-loathing? Is that fear? Is that old memories that we don't want to think about? Is it anxiety? And when we slow anxiety down, anxiety actually becomes lots of feelings jumbled together. You don't need to come up with the right identification, right? This isn't a pass fail, but just try to sense your way into what needs are flowing as they're flowing out your crayon or marker or whatever you're expressing with. So give this just a little more attention, as if you were expressing from the need itself. And if you're not using your non-dominant hand already, I am going to ask that you switch to your non-dominant hand for sure. If you're already using your non-dominant hand and you want to switch to your elbow or toes or feet, you go right ahead. Express the unmet need. You don't need language for this. That's why we're using form, color, movement. You don't need language. Express the unmet need. I want this and I can't have it. I feel this and nothing is soothing it. And remember the option in everyday life to return to this practice. I'm big on well-loved books. I think it's okay if they're dog-eared and paper-clipped and accidentally dropped in the lake a few times. That's how we know the book's getting use, is if it's loved. You want to dog-ear this page or even fold all of page 67 right in half across itself so you can find it easily. Do that, because this activity is an alternative to engaging in a behavior that you know might cause you harm down the road. If not an alternative, at least a stopgap, right? At least if we can insert this activity between ourselves and engaging in the thing we don't want to engage with, that's a useful coping skill. Now, if you're okay to wrap up this expression of the unmet need, that somatic experience, the intensities of it, I'm going to ask that you just hug it to yourself for a minute. Just give it a hug right up against your body. And give it a breath. And then set it aside. Yeah. Never underestimate the power of a little self-hug. You're getting a lot of the same benefits of touch, oxytocin, beta endorphin, downregulation. And feel that in your breath. And when it's okay, set aside that particular depiction and find a fresh sheet of paper and in some way depict that breath, depict that expression. Depict that hug on this fresh sheet of paper. Use color, use movement, use form to express yourself meeting the unmet need. And if you've been playing along with expressive arts for a while, you might decide to put a crayon in each hand and let both hands express at the same time, or both feet, if that's the game you were playing today. But this depiction is a depiction of the need being met. If the need was unvented anger, little technological glitch there. Apologies if that affected you. If the need was unvented anger, then perhaps we soothe it through acknowledgement or expression. If the need is loneliness, perhaps the soothing is warmth or touch or community. Trust what comes out of you, again, whether you're drawing something that exists or whether you are expressing through movement, color, and form. Depict that need being soothed, being met. And there in the soothing, a lot of the time when we have the safe place to land, we have greater access to what is really going on. Right? Healing occurs in the context of safety, community. Community with others, or as today, community with the essential self, the soul self, the creative self. And here we are together. You are supported by this group as well. Whether in real time or through the recording, we are harmonized, we are united around these intentions, around this practice. So in that freedom, if that is opening up for you, here on the page that is depicting the soothing, we'll recruit language a little bit. If possible, write down a word or 5 that articulate the soothing. Care, holding, slowing down, reassurance, whatever that might be. Write down what is meeting that unmet need, what is soothing it. And for the purpose of acknowledgement, perhaps you will write down what the need or needs were as well. Perhaps you will use language to identify what was calling out from within you. This is less important, especially because we've been operating from that somatic place, from that embodied, felt sense being. We've talked a lot in this group because we're using expressive arts. We're endeavoring to bypass verbal blocks, right? That's some of what we're doing here. But naming and claiming sometimes have a place. So I want to give you the chance to do that. And even if you're not coming up with the so-called right word to describe what that need was, that's okay. We just want to give it an extra nod. And if you did write down a word that identified the need that you're soothing, is there anything you can do with the word itself? Maybe how you trace the letters or what you draw within, around, or through that word that offers the word itself some soothing also? Can you protect that need a little bit? Can you depict that attention, that attunement, that offering? You wrote down the qualities that were helping to acknowledge and soothe this need. Can we set the expression aside for a moment and give ourselves a few breaths to really settle into those qualities? The support, the connection, the reassurance, slowing down, the love, the affirmation, the deepening, the courage, the forgiveness, the peace, the attention. Whatever it was for you, hold that felt sense. If it helps to open your eyes slowly every so often and look at that depiction of soothing the unmet need, then carry that depiction with you into your imagination, into your body. And give yourself a few more breaths for soothing. By slowing your breath, notice if you can open a bit more into the places that need this acknowledgement. Create more space within yourself for these supportive, balancing qualities. Breathing it through your entire being. Coloring your emotions. Coloring your thoughts. Sometimes we reach to others for that soothing, even by imagining that other giving us the soothing. The effect is within us. This is yours for you. On the outside, humans aren't always great at coming through for each other, even if they love us, even if we love them. We miss sometimes. The yoga reminds us that I am always with me. You are always with you. And higher consciousness flows through both of us. We have unending access to this. We have unending access to soothing resources. And these obstacles, case in point today, attachment and aversion, stand between us and that free-flowing access. So when we remember, why do I feel disconnected? Well, there's a hindrance at play. When I acknowledge the hindrance, I open the door a little bit more. If you've been practicing for a while, you know that some days you can blow that door wide open. Shower, downpour of goodness. And other days you're lying on the ground, just kind of looking under the crack of the door, just poking your fingers through. And that's all you get that day. But yoga teaches us to continue reaching, to continue practicing without attachment to the results of that practice. So as we're doing today, it is enough to intend. Today, intending to soothe the need, to stay connected, to slow down, offer attention, connection. The final optional step in the activity as it's written in Yoga for the Creative Soul is to destroy destroy the original drawing. This is not a practice of attachment, right? Like, oh, I never want to feel, or aversion, I should say. I never want to feel that way again. I'm getting rid of this. It's a ceremonial acknowledgement of transformation. So if there's a way that you can safely set it on fire, if you have a fireplace or a fire pit, that's great. We appreciate fire for its transformational qualities, right? We see paper become flame, become smoke, and the smoke is the prayer, right? It's the sign that this transformation has occurred, and the smoke to the wherever prayers go. Please let this transformation land and live within me, calling forth those qualities of connection instead. But water transforms. You can drench it in the sink. When I didn't have access to a fireplace, I would light stuff on fire in the sink, but you got to be really careful about where your curtains are, how big the flame is, and how ready you are with the water that also pours out of the sink. Not recommending you endanger yourself or your property. So water itself transforms. Earth transforms. You can bury this, right? You can rip it up and throw it into the wind. Air transforms, or it can be enough that it's in your recycling box to become a future greeting card or paper bag. The original drawing, where the pain came out of you, where the impulse, compulsion, addiction was within you and then depicted, came out of you, it is useful to transform that. This habit never needs to be the same again. Is it all done? Are we perfect with these so-called bad habits, addictions, behaviors? No, this is a cyclical process, but it'll never be like it was again. You have done the work of transforming it last week and this week. So in that ceremony of transformation, acknowledge what you have released and what you have replaced it with. This is very, very powerful work. And the takeaway from this activity and from this part of the book as a whole is reminding us, as we move through the obstacles, as we acknowledge them, chip away at them, get them off the path, we are creating more space for the creative soul to flow through us. When freed from the hindrances, which take up a lot of space inside of us, that space is then occupied by the truth of who we are instead. Letting go. Letting go of what isn't needed, letting go of the false self, letting go of that which causes us harm and pain. And the more we cultivate those qualities that support our healing, that support the journey of wholeness and connection, the more we are connected to independent choice and the true self. Both attachment and aversion, along with egoism and spiritual forgetting and fear, they alter our peace of mind. They take up space that will be occupied by who we truly are: balanced, stable, peaceful, connected. Yoga reminds us to practice daily, that this is a continual effort. And those daily continual efforts, what is that? 3 deep breaths before you get out of bed, making sure you stretch a little bit while you're boiling water for your hot water and lemon or your herbal tea in the morning, when you're walking your dog, right? When you're doing your morning pages, whatever it might be, these attentions in the everyday round, when strung together day by day by day, transform us. They set the ground for epiphany. When does epiphany come? Who knows? That's unexpected. That's kind of the fun of it, right? But no amount of practice is wasted. Every little effort for your health, every little effort for our connection to who we really are matters. And the way those benefits show up is part of the great mystery. But we can hold faith that the effort is important. Constant practice over a long period of time without attachment to the end results. So I wish you presence. I wish you steadiness in your practice. I wish you connection to yourself. Share your epiphanies, your inspirations, your curiosity, your pain in the supportive group of Yoga for the Creative Soul. If individual attention would help you move through this, reach out to me, either to work with me or for a referral to somewhere else. Somebody might be able to specifically help you. And group learning opportunities remain. We're going on into chapter 5 next week, but every week, Wednesdays at 12:30 Eastern. And addictions are often arising from our unresolved traumatic experiences. There is another trauma-aware training happening October 2nd and 3rd. So it's not full yet. That opportunity remains available. I look forward to seeing your stuff and hearing from you, either in the group or reach out to me through social. Thank you for engaging in this practice today. Thank you for attending to the needs that arise within you and for being an attentive and loving caregiver of self. We'll see you next week.